Hey guys, what's up? My name is Don and welcome to an After Effects tutorial. And today we'll be doing a little visual effects and a little compositing. We'll be taking a look at how to track this HUD element onto an eyeball. So I have a composition with no effects added to it, and I also have another comp with the HUD element split into 4 different sections. So we'll be animating this and then compositing them onto the left eyeball right here. I chose the left eyeball because of the next part of this video, the tracking. That's going to be the first step you need to take. You need to track this footage, and I think the left eye is going to be slightly better because this feature right here, this dark area, stays the same throughout the entire clip. On the other side here we have a little bit of a shadow which kind of curls in there, and this whole area just changes dramatically. So find the best place to track. For me, that's going to be right here, and you want to go to window and make sure your tracker window is enabled, and it's going to appear somewhere to the right here. You want to go ahead and click track motion, and I'm just going to set mine to be around about here. Let's go back to the starting frame. So just the edge of that dark feature. I'm gonna make this really small, and also this, and then I'm gonna start analyzing forward. Okay, so that's a pretty good track. There is a slight jump around about here or so. So we can tweak this manually and just basically bring this back each time it jumps to the left. Then the eye starts to open again, and it seems we are all good. So pretty simple track. I'm gonna right click and create a new null object, and I will call this tracker data. This will be carrying all this information. Let's go to the tracker window, edit target. You want to set it to target the tracker data and hit OK. And then you want to hit apply, and you want this to apply to the X and Y, and then hit OK again. So now we have a null object following that feature on the eye there. We can now go ahead and move on to the next point, which is you need to create a new solid, make it white, and we'll call this mask, and hit OK. You want to shut the eye off, and you basically want to go to the first frame and draw a mask shape which follows the shape of the eye. I would suggest you click the roto bezier icon, and this is going to create some automatic curves for you, and it just looks a bit cleaner. We just want this on the white part of the eye. I'm gonna move this point right here and adjust that one over there. So we have the basic mask right there. We want to link this solid's position to the null. So if you just make the null a parent of this mask, just grab that whip tool, drag it to the tracker data and let go, and now you see that this is going to follow that tracker pretty well. The only thing we have to do now is to animate the mask to follow that blink. So I'm gonna shut the eye off again just so I see the mask only. Go to when the blink happens, so roughly halfway through my animation. It starts to happen from about here. I'm gonna go to the mask, and I'm gonna animate the mask path. So let's set a keyframe to begin with. I'm gonna move this point to about here, and this one roughly to about there. And we can move to when the eye is fully closed, and move this down, and move this up. and then we can do the in-between motion. So if we go to this frame, for example, we can push this back up, and the same over here, push this one down, and just a little bit more over here. And you basically want to tweak this to follow the shape of your eye as much as possible. We're gonna go forward one frame, and it did a pretty good job of guessing where this should go next, so just some minor tweaks. Next frame is fine. It's gonna be completely shut, so we can maybe make that really narrow. We wanna push the top down, especially to follow the shape of the eyelashes there. Let's move forward to when it's open again, when it stops moving. So about here, seems like it. Let's move this back up again, and let's move this down. It needs to be up here somewhere. I'm gonna go halfway. It seems the motion going back up is a lot slower because we have way more time here. Carry on adjusting that. Let's go to the next halfway point, around about here. And you'll notice as I animate these masks, I always start with a start point, an end point, and then like a mid. And that way, some of the keyframes in between will be done automatically for you. So it's better to do it this way, which is kind of like a pose to pose animation, instead of doing a straight ahead animation where you basically follow each frame by frame. That has its advantages sometimes, but I find when doing some rotoscoping, it's definitely better to do pose to pose. So this is the next halfway point, and you can see that that pretty much did that automatically right there. I don't really have to do too much tweaking at all. Seems we have to adjust this one. Just push it down, push this one down, maybe to the left a little bit. And it seems this is following our eye pretty good. So if we bring that solid back, we can see we have this white area, and it follows our eye, and it kind of blinks along with it. Right, the next part, we are going to drag in our HUD elements on top of this. Just put them below the mask, and you want to go to the track matte mode. If you can't see this, you want to toggle the switches and set this to Luma Matte Mask. And of course the HUD elements are all the way down here. We should have positioned them on the eye just like that. I am going to enlarge this to roughly 150%. You could probably use some higher quality stuff, but I think this will work. And the next thing you need to do is to make this the parent of the same tracker node that we set before. Make it a child, I mean, so that it also follows along with that. So you can see it's a pretty good track, and we just need to go in now and animate this a little bit. Those edges are way too sharp. You can see they just kind of cut off. So we need to go to the mask, press F, and feather this by maybe 5 pixels. And if that expands too much outside of our range, we can go to the mask expansion and bring that in. I'm gonna go for -1 or -2.5. Oops, -2.5, and hit enter, and that just follows a little better. It seems here we don't quite get away with this mask being so wide open, so let's really go in and shut it off completely. And we'll do the same over here. We need to bring this down a little more, bring this up, and I think the rest is fine. Okay, so we have the graphics somewhat mapped onto our eye. It doesn't look very exciting at all, so we need to go in here now and do a little animation. So let's go to the HUD elements comp. We'll start with this inner ring, which is just a HUD element 1, and then as you go down the list, you go outward to the last one. So starting with number 1, I'm going to press R to bring up the rotation, and we are basically going to animate this with a with an expression. So if I hold ALT and click the rotation, I can type in time times 100, which basically means my comp will look at the time and times that with the rotation value, and this will be generated automatically, and it's gonna just keep spinning all the way. I think that's a little too fast, so I'm gonna go for time times 50, and if I hit play, you can see it's not too fast, you know, but it looks kind of cool. We can go to the next one and do the same, bring up the rotation, time, let's say time times minus 50. So it's gonna be going in the opposite direction. Let's do that to the next element. I'll do this one a little faster than all the other ones, so time times 100. Looking pretty cool. Let's go to HUD element 4 and time times, let's say, minus 20. So this one is going to be moving really slow. You know, it's kind of the largest one, so it's kind of really bulky, and this is the final effect we have. So not too bad at all. If we go back to the eye track clip and hit play, you can see that the elements are now moving inside of her eye, and it looks pretty cool. However, this is not very aesthetic at all. It's still just white out, and we need to make this more exciting. So let's add some effects. Let's first of all pre-compose all of them. Let's call this HUD elements pre, and I will hit OK. Let's go back to the HUD elements comp. I'm gonna right click, effect, stylize and glow, and we can set color A to maybe a blue, and the same for color B. And you want to change the glow colors from original to A and B colors. So now we have something like this. We can go back to the eye track clip and scrub through, and you can see straight away that looks a lot better. If we take out our preview, you can see I actually had green elements, so maybe we should do that too. If we go to the HUD elements, we can go to effect, color correction and tint. Let's put this below the glow, shut off the glow for now, and map the white to blue just like we have on the glow. And on the glow now we can use the original colors. In fact, we can make it maybe just a lighter blue and a darker blue, maybe a little lighter than normal, and set this back to A and B colors. Seems that's not doing much, so we need to increase the intensity and lower the threshold. And that seems to be working. A bit more blue, so we have this going on. If we go back to the eye track clip You can see it doesn't look too bad. We need to change the blending mode of these elements though. Right click, go to blending mode, and we're gonna go with add. So where the eye is whiter, it's gonna be a lot brighter basically. Okay, not too bad at all. We can go in here. I think I need to brighten up this glow a little more, or make it really blue. Create another glow and increase the radius of this one, but not too much, and lower the intensity maybe. Okay, I'm also going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to remove all the effects, so we just have the white on top of that. However, I don't want this white to be there all the time. I want it to have like a pulse animation coming from the center and going outward. So I'm going to create a new solid and call it pulse, and I will hit OK, and then I'm going to create a circle from the center here. Hold shift and control to draw a perfect circle going outward, and I'm going to go to the mask expansion, and I want to animate this basically. So if I make this as small as possible until you can't see any white, I'm going to move forward about 12 frames, and I'll make this 100% again, so bring this back to 0. I'm going to duplicate the mask and set its mode to subtract. I'm going to press U to bring up the keyframes, and I basically need to offset this slightly. So we're going to have a ring animation going outward like that. I will duplicate this pulse layer and play it right after the first one finishes, and do the same. I'm just moving 12 frames each time. I used to know an expression which looped animations, but I seem to have forgotten it, so we're just gonna do this manually. And I'm just hitting the square bracket key, the left square bracket key, to move these out like that. So when we have those finished, I'm going to right click, going to pre-compose, and we'll call this pulses, and hit OK, and we'll go back to the HUD elements, and this white one, we'll bring it back and set its track matte to Lumimatte pulses. So we're just going to have this white thing flowing through all of them continually like that. I think that edge is a bit sharp, so what I'm going to do is to go to the pulses, select all of them, press F to bring up all the masks, and feather by 5 pixels, and do the same to the second mask. It seems it didn't apply to all of them, so let's try that again. Press F, set this to 6, and set the next one to 6. Okay, it's refusing to apply to all of them, so I'm just going to go this and manual all of these one by one. Just pressing 5 and 5, and pretty straightforward. If we go back to the HUD elements comp, now you can see it's a little bit softer. If we go back to the eye track clip, we can see that pulse animation going on inside of the eye, and it looks pretty cool. I think I may have jumped the gun with the amount of elements I used here. So I'm going to go back to my HUD elements comp, and I go back to the first one. Let's remove this second one, or just shut the eye off, and then this other one we'll bring its scale to 75, maybe 85 or so, and the last one will give that a scale of, let's say, 90. That's too little, 95. And we need to do this to the other, in fact no, they're pre-comp, so we should be fine. Let's go back to the eye track clip and let's see what difference that makes. I think we just see a little more of the eye itself because we'd completely just covered it up completely. I'm gonna go in here and make this second one a little smaller. So instead of 85, we can have it at 80. And this last one, maybe 97. And I think this is a good mix. Maybe make the first one a little larger. So 110. Oops. Oh, that's the opacity I'm trying to control. So 110 for the scale, and that's okay. I think this is perfect for what we want. And I think that's pretty much it for the track itself. Just one final detail. If we right click, we can go to Effect, Distort, and we want to create a bulge. So if we find that up here, we can put this right in the middle of the eye, and we're going to increase the radius to be roughly the same as the eyeball inside here. And this is just going to simulate the spherical shape of the eyeball. So if we set this to 0.5, I think that should be perfectly fine. Okay, I'm going to pre-comp everything, and I'll call this eye track full. And let's go back, and I'm gonna go to composition, comp settings. I'll just make this 960 by 540. I'll hit OK. I'm gonna move this whole thing to about here, so we can see the eye a lot closer up. Kind of looks a little scary, but you know, looks cool, right? I'm gonna right click, go to new adjustment layer. We'll start off by eliminating some of this green here. So if I go to Effect, Color Correction, and we're gonna use Hue and Saturation. Let's control the greens here, and we'll just push them toward the red hue, and then move this pointer toward the yellow. For some reason the greens always lie in the yellow section more than they do in the actual green itself, so if you just move that, that might clear that up a little more. Okay, so the green is gone. Let's create a new adjustment layer. Go to Effect, Color Correction, Curves, and in fact, you know what, let's use a levels adjustment on the same layer with our hue and saturation. We'll set the red. We just want to make it so that where there's nothing here, the pointers don't go beyond that point. So bring this in this way. We'll go to the green, do the same thing. We'll go to the blue and do the same thing. So it looks very cold and very neutral. I'm going to create a curves adjustment now on the same layer, and increase the contrast quite a lot just to make that really pop out, and maybe bump up the highlights just a tiny little bit, and kill all the detail in the dark areas there. We don't really need to focus on that. I'm going to create a new solid, make it black, and I'll hit OK. When I double click the ellipse tool, set the mask to subtract, press F, and we are going to feather this to about 200 pixels. I'm going to modify the mask first of all, just pushing it up here, and same thing over here. I'll just get the whole thing and slide it to the right here, so we don't get any of that white on the right side, on the left side I mean. Let's bring this up just a tiny little bit, and I'm gonna bring this point back so we get a little bit of vignetting, and the same at the bottom here, and the same up there. I can see some of that detail coming back, so I'm gonna adjust these handles here, and I think that's perfect right there. So that looks super mean. And that's it, guys. That is how you track some 2D graphics onto an eyeball. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as I did making it. So I will see you in the next one. Bye.